Well, hello there, friends. You're listening to Graham's podcast. Please enjoy, because this is going to be an adventure.
Hello, friends. I'm Graham, and this is my podcast. You are listening to podcast number 4. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I can't believe it. I'm at number 4. I'll tell you what, I never in a million, trillion, gazillion, billion, bazillion, never thought that I would have 4 podcasts uploaded on YouTube. That is so cool. And oh my goodness, I love it. I love it. All right, so in my last podcast, I was talking about, I was talking about a lot of stuff. Apparently, I was all over the board, and I thought I was rambling on and annoying you all. Yeah, well, whatever. So today we're going to talk about, something to cover the earth with. You know, in nature, the earth just wants to cover herself. She doesn't like bare soil. If you notice, you go into the garden and you get in there with the rototiller or a hoe, and you disturb the soil, and you kill whatever's on top, pull your weeds, whatever. And within a matter of days, there's more stuff growing again. The earth is constantly trying to keep the soil covered. And it's just one of these things. In the Bible, I guess, or people that oh wow, I can't believe I just went there. So when they had the Garden of Eden in the Bible, it says in there that when Adam and Eve left the Garden of Eden, they put on clothes because they felt like they were naked. And the same thing goes with the earth, or the soil. When they were in the Garden of Eden, they were totally okay with the soil being covered. You know, they planted and they grew and stuff. That's what the Bible, in the Bible, this is, I'm not a historian or nothing, and definitely not a huge person about the story of Adam and Eve in the Bible, but this is what I've heard. That the ground was covered, and they gardened in the covered ground, and there was no rows of agriculture and combines and all that kind of stuff. It was like a forest or a garden. And then man comes out and he notices he's naked. He covers himself up because it's improper to be naked, and then he uncovers the earth. At least that's the story I've been told. Actually, the person who's told me that story, and he did a much better job of telling me that story, is a guy by the name of Paul Gauci. Paul Gauci, if you go on Google and you look up Back to Eden Garden and watch the documentary, he is a wonderful gentleman that he covers the earth. He in order to garden successfully, he makes sure there's always a layer and a covering over the earth. Either it be wood chips, or it be chicken manure, or any compost, whatever. You keep the earth covered. You don't let the bare soil be exposed to the sun, because what happens is then you get weeds, and so you're out in the garden all the time and you're pulling weeds and you're doing stuff, the earth just wants to be covered. Well, mulch is a covering, and there's so many different types of mulch that you can use, and I want to talk about a couple of different ones that I prefer, and then of course some that I definitely recommend staying as far away from as possible. I prefer wood chips, and these are just regular everyday wood chips, and the best wood chips you can get are just from an arborist local in your area. You call them up and say, hey, you've got some wood chips, I need some for my garden, and they come and deliver them. And it costs you nothing, absolutely free. When you go to the store, hardware store or wherever, you could buy bark and that kind of stuff, and you're going to spend a lot of money for those things. So wood chips are great. They smell great. After they've been down for a while, they're nice to walk on, and they're great. And as they decompose, and this is the thing too, as wood chips decompose, they fertilize your soil. They give nutrients to the ground, which then the plants that you put in absorb that nutrients, and it just kind of this cycle. It's kind of like a chop and drop kind of thing, where you have limbs off of a tree or whatever, you cut them off and you throw them down. It kind of goes into the permaculture world a little bit and that kind of thing as well. But it can be done tastefully, or I shouldn't even say tastefully, HOA approved in most situations, where underneath a tree or in flower beds you can put down wood chips. The mistake that I see all the time with putting down any type of mulch, either be rock or wood chips or bark or rubber or whatever nastiness some people put down, they always put a layer of fabric, landscaping cloth is what it goes by, or some sort of ground cover, weed barrier. And the problem with this, there's two big problems. The problem with this is as your wood chips decompose, the nutrients is stuck. It can't get to the soil, so it just sits right on top of the soil. The worms and stuff can't get up to it and break it down, and it's not the best of the best. So you take that, and you also get after time, weeds will grow in your mulch. So then you got weeds growing in the mulch. Well, that what's the purpose of having a landscape cloth or fabric if you're going to get weeds growing on top of it? So my thing is, get rid of it. Don't spend that extra money to put down any landscape fabric. The only reason I use landscape fabric in my garden is a temporary measure. So where I'm at right now at my buddy's house, in a year's time, they're planning on moving, and so I want to be able to pick up my wood chips and take them with me. So I put landscape fabric down, put the wood chips down, and then that way I can pick them up and put them somewhere else without having to, bring a lot of dirt and stuff with me as well. So that's what I use that for. Also, I use the landscape fabric, or did use it, on the back fence of my property. I hung it up on the fence, and then that way the neighbor dog couldn't see through the fence and see me and then bark and go crazy. So as long as I was quiet and didn't do a whole lot of talking, the neighbor dog didn't bark and bother me. So that's what I use landscape cloth for, or fabric. But in rule of thumb, don't use it. In pathways, it is great to use wood chips. I am a huge believer and fan of wood chips, especially since they're free. You can get them almost anywhere. Another thing you can get is gravel or rock. The only problem I have with that is you gotta be careful that it doesn't have a lot of sharp edges, because you go out there and you're walking around on it, it's uneven, or you can stab your foot or whatever, and it's not going to decompose in the same way wood chips would. And when the leaves hit the ground, or whatever hits the ground that's going to decompose, it sits on top of those rocks, and then it's really kind of unsightly. You have to go in and remove it with either a leaf blower or by hand or something like that. And so it's not the best. It's better than a lot of them, but not the best. So wood chips are definitely it. And like I said, in the paths and that kind of thing. Yeah, they're great. So they do a lot of things for us. When you have muddy areas, they kind of absorb the water. Wood is a really good water absorber. It will absorb it. It'll hold on to it. So then, where you have a lot of mud, it will make it so you can just walk on it, and it won't, or drive on it. So it'll make it so that you don't have all those issues. It's not, it's good. It's not bad. And then what's really cool is you can have wood chips without landscape fabric, and you can have a windstorm, and the windstorm blows through, and the wood chips are still sitting there. So that's also a benefit of it, as long as the landscape fabric's not there. If the landscape fabric's there, it'll blow right off that landscape fabric, and now the landscape fabric is, saying hi, which doesn't really work all that well. But the other thing that's really kind of cool with wood chips is it holds moisture. When you're a kid, I know when I was a kid, I want to go fishing. And of course, it's August, it's 110 degrees outside, and you're like, okay, seriously, I want to go fishing, but I don't have any worms. And then you get this idea, I'm going to go tip over some rocks or some pots or some planters. And there's worms underneath it. Well, wood chips do the same thing. They're protective in they allow moisture to stick around. The reason worms hide underneath a rock is because it's humid, it's moist, and the dry soil will kill a worm very quickly. Wood chips will do the same thing. They lay on the ground. You can have a lot of rain, and it's not going to flood the area, as long as you've got a nice, probably about 6 to 8 inches or more of wood chips, and you don't have to water as much because it keeps the evaporation down. And you'll notice too, if you have wood chips, that the top will be dry, but you dig down about 1.5 inches or 2 inches, and it's nice and moist. That's why I put wood chips around all of my pots and planters, is because it helps keep it so I don't have to water as much. It's definitely a wonderful thing. Now, there's a lot of different types of mulch out there. Not are all equal, that's for sure. They have some mulches where they use recycled tires off, automobile tires. I'm okay with that in certain areas. If it's a playground, or if it's chopped up and then they kind of like add another type of rubber to it to make a mat, for like a track for running on. That kind of thing, that works. I'm okay with that. But in the garden, that stuff's going to break down. The dyes they use for it, the chemicals and the sprays they use, to protect it from the sun, all these different things and processes they use, is not good for your plants, especially if you have vegetables. You don't want to eat that crud. I mean, that's just horrible. Plus, what happens in a period of time where, some of it gets tracked into the lawn, or some of it gets tracked into another piece of dirt or whatever, and then for the next 50 years, you're pulling out chunks of rubber and, this funny plasticky stuff. I mean, it's just, it doesn't make any sense to me. I wouldn't want that stuff anywhere near my property, to be honest with you. It just seems like a headache. Now, I did talk about rocks. And yes, the rocks will collect things. Lots of garbage gets in them, as far as like leaves and trash. You ever tried to pick cigarette butts out of gravel? Oh my, and I'm not talking like pea gravel. I'm talking like, river rock. Try to get cigarette butts picked up out of that. Now, I'm a non-smoker, but I was a groundskeeper for years. And yeah, rocks are not your friend. I mean, yes, they help keep the soil underneath moist and stuff. And yes, they do deteriorate a little bit, and they add more nutrients as far as minerals and stuff to the soil. But it's not significant enough to deal with the headache of them personally. And they're heavy. Trying to move them around takes a lot of muscle. So I'm not a big fan of rocks either, just because I've had my experiences with them. And they're not comfortable to walk barefoot on, or heck, even with shoes sometimes, because they're different shapes and sizes, they shift. So that's something to look into as well. Another type of mulch that I'm also not a big fan of is bark. Now, bark itself, by itself, is okay. It's going to degrade very quickly and turn into dust, just because of the what it's made, how it's made and what it's made out of, because it's designed to fall off the tree. When a tree is putting on bark, it's putting it on as a shield, a blanket, a jacket, protecting its inner layer that is very sensitive and it needs to be protected. Well, as the tree gets bigger, the bark just naturally falls off the tree. It's just what it does. It just kind of crumbles and falls apart and comes down. It comes off the tree. Well, it's also going to degrade very quickly once hitting the ground. And if you step on it, it's going to crumble really easy. The other problem with bark is the dyes that they use. And believe it or not, they actually put smell into bark. It's very strange, but they do. They give it this kind of funky smell that when you smell it, you think, oh, that's bark. So bark is kind of one of those weird ones. They put a chemical on it to help it so it doesn't deteriorate. They put lacquers on it. They put all kinds of stuff on that. And the other one is like colored wood chips, stained wood chips. Like they will do black and red and green wood chips that you put in your garden and put around your flowers and stuff. And again, same thing. They've got dyes on them, chemicals, and all that kind of stuff, The last thing you want, seriously, is to digest any of that. Not to mention the off gases. Those chemicals cannot be good for your health. Yes, it's outside and it has hopefully a little bit of, airflow in the area where you put it, where some circulation is happening. But that's not always the case. And, would you pick it up and put it in your mouth and suck on it for a while and then feel like you're not gonna, die? Well, what if you've got, a child or a little one? They are going to pick it up and possibly put stuff in their mouth. And I'm sorry, but if I can't put it in my mouth and suck on it for a while, and then when I'm done, feel as if, I'm okay, I'm going to survive. If I feel like I'm going to die or I'm going to get sick, I'm not putting it on my ground. Absolutely not. No way, because then I am eventually going to be putting it in my mouth and in my body if I'm growing tomatoes or peppers or carrots or leeks or whatever other type of vegetable. And those plants will absorb those chemicals and then you will be eating it. So no, I'm not a fan of that. But like I said, I am a huge fan of the wood chips. Wood chips are a great idea. So anyways, enough of my rambling. I went on and on and on and on. I can't believe I did that. Oh my goodness. So I have a channel. Well, I have a couple of channels. One called Surreal Cinemas, It's on YouTube here. And it's where I review movies and stuff. Well, I haven't done that in a long time, and now with all my stuff in storage, that isn't going to be happening for quite some time. But there is something we're about to release here really soon. Actually, I think we've already released one of them. But it's Review the Who with Miss Cracker, with Miss Carol and Sir Cracker. And that is something that is kind of a review show, and it's really freaking awesome if you ask me, because we are reviewing old school Doctor Who from the very, very, very beginning to present day. So we're watching every single episode in chronological order, and so come check it out. I'm really excited about it. If it's not up yet, it will be very, very soon. It's still kind of in the editing world, but it's getting there. And we're changing location and set here pretty soon too. So, but give that a good look-see and check that out. Also, if you want to see any of my stupid stuff or my weird stuff or some of my interviews, you can go check out The Hive. That's just The Hive. And it's here on YouTube as well. It's another channel that I run. And if you're a Facebooker, you ought to check me out on Facebook. Or better yet, check out my group on Facebook. And I wouldn't even say it's my group. It's a community thing. Graham's Community Garden. Come check it out. It is awesome. Oh my gosh. So it's a place for you to come and share all of your gardening tricks, tips, yada, 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 comments, subscribe to it. You're gonna love it. It's freaking awesome. There's so many wonderful people that are gardening there. And if you have a problem in your garden, that is the place to go. I'm telling you, post your problem and somebody in there will give you an answer. We have so many people. I think it's like 207 members so far, and it's an open group. Anyone can come and check it out. And so if you know anyone who's interested in checking it out too, let them know. Hey, Graham's Community Garden, go check it out. It's pretty cool. So make that your own, man. Embrace that and share your pictures of your garden and all that good stuff. Make it your own. And of course, comment, like, and subscribe here, and share this stuff as well. And if you have any suggestions for episodes of my podcast, I will be more than happy to share or to receive those ideas and then share those podcasts with you. So, all right, y'all, I'm gonna call it a day. I know I'm not quite at my my half-hour mark, but that's all right. I've talked a lot. Oh my goodness, I've talked a lot. And I didn't give a shout out. I didn't throw anyone's name around. Aren't you proud of me? This is I think this is going to be a much better episode here. And you know what? I think from here on out, sky's the limit. This is just going to get better and better and better. And I'm going to get more refined and more tuned to what's going on and how to do this podcast as time goes by. So please stick with us, or with me. Please stick with me. There's no us. It's me. Please stick with me. And I hope I am able to entertain you in the future. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Y'all have yourselves a fantastic rest of the day. Until next time, I'll see you soon. Bye for now. Well, that was a wonderful show. Thank you so much, Graham, for one heck of a podcast. Can't wait to see you next time. Bye for now.